Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Monica Badiu. She is a conversion copywriter with over 14 years of experience. She shares how to drive 7 figures in revenue through customer-centric copywriting and email marketing. Welcome to the show, Monica.
It's so great to be here.
It's fabulous to have you on. And I think you have this great energy about you. And I'm sure that you bring that into your projects, into the work that you do. So tell us a little bit for people that don't know what a professional copywriter would be, because I know there's some people out there new to business and they hear the word copyright and they're like, is that where you have like rights in a book, or is that kind of copyright? And so fill us in on what is copywriting and how did you end up as a professional copywriter?
Good question. I actually had the rant about this on YouTube just a few weeks ago. So I'm not a writer like the kind you outsource blogging or writing a press release. I'm a sales copywriter or conversion copywriter. So basically, businesses come to me when they have a product they want to sell through email marketing, through ads, through obviously their website, through a webinar. So I would basically do a lot of customer research to figure out what is it that the audience wants and how does it match what the business is selling. And then I put my magic hat on and I create this customer-centric piece of copy that engages the audience and helps the business sell more. It's similar to what advertising copywriters do when you would see a TV commercial or when you would hear a commercial on radio. That's the type of copywriting I do. And to answer your...
Yeah. I'm just curious, how did you end up in this career?
I've been writing for a living since I was like 20. And I've had the passion for writing since I was in middle school. And I didn't really connect the dots to conversion copywriting until a few years ago when it hit me that I've been doing this for a long time. I just didn't put a label on it. And a few years ago, after trying multiple different businesses and having had multiple different careers, I settled on the idea I want to specialize in something because I was a unicorn. So I was the person you'd hire in your business. And I take care of everything of sales, of marketing, of lead generation, of graphics, and all of that. So I found an agency that was specializing in just one thing. And I started specializing with them. And I realized I had this natural skill of explaining something that appears complicated in a way that is simple. And it came with my passion for consumer behavior, for psychology, and a goal or mission, I don't even know how to call it, but to change how marketing is done. Because after more than a dozen years experience doing marketing for many companies, I realized there is so much fear mongering and pressure on people to just buy stuff that is not necessary to them. And I wanted to do something different. So fast forward to the present day, I'm talking about customer-centric copywriting and I'm trying to inspire businesses and even the people who want to start a business, but they don't want to do what feels icky, maybe, and natural. I want to show them that there is like a different way you can do your marketing, still make money, and serve an audience.
And so you really have to get into the mind of the client, of the consumer, and be a psychologist. That's unique, I think, because when people think of someone who writes for a living, even if it's, okay, I do conversion copywriting, so it's marketing, it's presenting an opportunity to potential clients and customers. There's so much psychology that goes into that. So, how does that play into what you do? What do you do to research how people think?
Oh, so much. It's my favorite part of the whole thing. And funny thing, my first college degree was in social science with a focus on politics. And I started reading a lot on audience behavior in terms of electoral situations. And then I started to be more and more passionate about psychology. And I actually wanted to go back to school to study psychology and become a practitioner. But then I got pregnant, I'm a mom, COVID happened, and I just chose advertising school as the second best option. So, what I do, and I say this to a lot of people, like 80% of the time I spend on a project is done on researching customer language. A lot of that comes from interviewing customers of my client, from looking at information available online on Quora or on Amazon or on YouTube on topics and videos and books related to what my client is doing. So, for instance, if my client is teaching people how to lose weight or how to learn a new language, I'm going to go and study what are people doing to find the answer to that. What are some of the things they're trying? What are some of the podcasts they're listening? And I'm going to listen to that. What are some of the books they're reading? And I'm going to read those. And then I read a lot of scientific research on websites that are for academia and they seem very boring to the rest of the people, but I find lots of interesting insight. I read a lot of country reports. So, whatever the World Health Organization has its own kind of reports. So, I read those at least once a year to see what are the trends, what's happening in the world, what are the statistics say, what are people most likely to struggle with in the year to come. So it's three different layers. And I know for me, it's very insightful. I find lots of interesting key points. And that helps me make my sales messages hit home in a way that isn't, I know, isn't fear mongering. It's empowering because it's look, I know what you're struggling with. I know what your fears are, but don't let that stop you. Let's see how we can help you together to overcome the fear, the obstacle, the concerns you have.
Do you find sometimes with your new clients, you get brought on, you start doing all of this research? Do your clients ever realize that they dropped the ball because maybe the client never did this deep level of research and really didn't know their own client?
It's 99% of the time.
So
So it's
ironic.
very, yeah, it's so ironic. And honestly, you are a business owner, right? You are going to know some things about your audience and you're going to have some assumptions about your audience. But at some point, you're going to hire professionals like me. We're going to do all the research for you and inform other parts of your business. So it's normal that a lot of business owners don't really have that kind of deep knowledge about their audience. At the same time, you need to have some marketing know-how about the process of figuring out your audience because most people don't really think about that. They just jump into, I have a business idea, so I'm just going to create it. And because it's so easy nowadays to start like an Instagram profile, just set up an online business, people are skipping some very important elements like defining your audience, like who is it that you want to serve, and do they actually need your product or your service?
Someone like you who's really plugged into the pulse of society and culture and the news and what's out there and what people are actually thinking and saying, was the recent pandemic, you probably realized more about that than a lot of people who have blinders on and just really aren't tuned into what's going on with people in their personal lives, in their personal like worldview and all of that. Was there anything really surprising in the last few years that you uncovered that you hadn't expected?
Wow, that's a deep question. And the issue with that is that we're still figuring out how COVID has impacted us as a society. I think it did highlight a lot of the issues we have in terms of loneliness and lack of connection. And even though we have so much technology at our fingertips, theoretically created to help us connect with each other, lots of us are feeling more and more isolated than ever before. And I do tackle this, and I did tackle this specific concern in the years after COVID, and it did really hit home. Another one is the high level of fear we live in. And it comes to different degrees based on you're a woman, you're a man, you're a business owner, you're in a business you don't like, you're in a job you don't like, you're a student and you're thinking, okay, what are my job opportunities? You're a mom. So all these different segments are experiencing fear, but they relate to this fear at the very deep personal level. And I tackle that. And I think it's important for brands to tackle that fear and help those audiences navigate through life despite the fear. And maybe the third more important element of all of this is we are in deep burnout. So I used to think only entrepreneurs experience burnout, but it's not just entrepreneurs. I think so many people across different categories, across different countries are living every single day with burnout. Some of it is physical burnout, like you actually feel depleted, you can't just make your body move. Another bit is mental burnout, which is coming from having to digest all this information, all this 24/7 being on social media, receiving content, being on every single day. And then the third one would be emotional burnout. And this goes back to the fear and the uncertainty that we've been becoming more and more aware of as a state we're in the last few years. It sounds a bit grim and like negative, but that's like one a few of the things I've noticed. On the other hand, like some positive things coming from the pandemic, a lot more people want no screen time, and there's a bigger focus on a healthier work life balance. And the fact that we were able to experience remote work like in mass, that has changed everything. And I've been working remotely for the majority of my years in business and as a professional. And someone would have to pay me a lot of money for me to even consider the idea of working in an office again. And I think that's something that we need to safeguard and protect as a right in the years to come as things go back to normal. Because remote working can really shift the balance between how much time you spend on your work versus on creating a quality lifestyle for yourself.
So true. And being remote, you can be as global as you want. And the language of marketing, that's where global. Now it's not, that's worldwide. It's not just limited to any particular country. But do you find that your client mix is in one specific country over another?
No. So I've been working in the last 5 years with people from all over the globe. For a while, I ran a group coaching program, Data Driven Marketing, which is an agency that helps course creators scale their business. And we had people from Australia, from Southern America, from Canada, from the US, from the UK, from different parts of Europe. And I think at some point we had someone from like South Africa. Oh, and Asia as well. It was so interesting to have a conversation in the middle of the pandemic with people who are experiencing different things throughout the world. So I think this is a major perk, being able to do this from wherever you are. And even myself, for the last 5 years, I've been working throughout Europe, through Greece, Italy, Spain, Denmark. We usually leave for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And we have a camper van. So we just pack it up for 3 weeks and we just travel.
Amazing. That just sounds like a great lifestyle. I think there's people listening thinking, I want to do something similar. And you, at the core of it, you're your own boss. You are a consultant, you're a freelancer, you call the shots, you take the clients you want, you don't take the clients you don't want, you create your own schedule. And for someone that wants that kind of career, and it might not be copywriting, maybe someone else is gifted in other ways, a data analyst, or just some other way to do consulting and to help other companies and businesses grow their brands and what they're doing. What would you say to someone who right now works for a company? They're coming into the office, they're not remote, and they're ready to be their own boss, and they have a skill set that translates. They've done a great job as an employee using their skills for another company, but now they want to go out on their own. What are some of those first steps? Can you give encouragement to somebody that's really scared to take those first steps?
I've been there. I've been there several times. So, in my experience, it really helps to have a good network so that when you leave your job and the safety of that office, you have a few, at least, contacts to lay back on to say, hey, I'm doing this as of tomorrow. So, do you know someone who would be a good client? Can you refer someone to me? That's like a massive asset to have. It's very hard to start if you don't have that network built from the beginning. And you can do that with LinkedIn, with, I know, your friends. It's not as complicated as anymore as it was like 8, 10 years ago. Second would be build a personal brand before you leave your office. So I've struggled with that for so many years. Even now, I'm struggling with the whole thing of imposter syndrome and who am I to be talking about this? And why should I be posting any more content? There's so much content every single day. So I still struggle with that, but there are so many benefits to building a strong personal brand. Because when you're ready to launch yourself as a business owner, you're going to have the visibility, you're going to have the social proof. And for me, this was complicated over the years because I've spent 5 years as an in house PR and marketing manager to a fashion luxury brand. And I didn't have time to write any of the awesome things I've done for them. So after 5 years, I've had to start from scratch because if you're not online, if you're not visible, if there's no blueprint to here's what I've been doing so far, it's very hard to start from kind of ground level, even when you've had all that experience, but then there's nothing online to show for it. So, yeah. And then the last one would be make a plan. So, actually think about it. So, if you want to leave your job in 1 year from now, what needs to happen? Do you need to have some kind of financial security? Do you need to save some money? What are some of the tools you're going to need? Is there something specific that you need to learn? Start investing in yourself from the present moment. And if I know, maybe you want to change your life completely, maybe your kind of business implies moving abroad, learning a new language. I don't know. Start doing all those things right now while you have that job security. Because when you're on your own, even though the solopreneur lifestyle sounds amazing, it's not easy. Running a business is not easy. And the first 2 years in business, I think they're very difficult from this perspective because there's not a lot of financial security. And you're asked to get yourself moving. You have to constantly not want to stay in your comfort zone. Because as soon as you go into a comfort zone as an entrepreneur, you stop growing and you become blind to the opportunities around you. And the more you stay in that comfort zone, the harder it is to move forward and to take risks. And this is what entrepreneurship is. It's honestly learning how to be comfortable with constant risk and using that as an asset rather than something that keeps you limited.
Amazing advice. Amazing. And starting this year, we've really been encouraging all of our podcast guests we just invite them all to give something of value to the audience. When we asked Monica what can you do to help the audience? What can you offer? Something that's no cost, that has tons of value that we can feature on. We have a short domain for it, podcastguestgift.com, but there's also a direct link as well here. And you said you have 9 email automations that every course creator would need in order to earn more on autopilot. So tell us a little bit about what that is and the direct URL as well. It can be accessed at podcastguestgift.com. It's our sort of vault of all of that free knowledge that our podcast guests have to offer. And we're putting it all in one place, but feel free to share the direct URL as well.
Cool. I'm going to check that myself. So this is a short ebook, and it basically introduces you to the 9 different types of email automations you can have in place to engage your audience and to keep them moving through your funnel so that eventually they would convert. And while this one is specific to course creators, because that's my niche, that's my where I have most experience, email automation works for every online business. And you can look at it, like, even if you're not the course creator, you can still download it because it's going to introduce you to things like a welcome email sequence. And it's going to tell you how many emails and what's the purpose of having that. And email automation is one of those things that I'm so grateful we have right now. And it's become so easy to set it up, and it does the work on autopilot. You set it up once, you write the copy, you put it in your email platform, you set the trigger, and then while you do other elements of your business, that system works on your behalf, which is so powerful. And it allows solopreneurs to scale their business, even if they have a small team or no team at all. And the link for that is monicabadiu.com/freebie. And similar to what you guys have here, that's a page that gives you access to more freebies than that. So feel free to go check it out. And you can also find lots of value on my blog or on LinkedIn. And you're going to learn a lot about this whole thing with how to sell with email in a non-spammy, non-aggressive way. And if you have questions, just drop them in a comment somewhere and I'll answer. I'll happily answer.
Monica, you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing what you do with us and giving us so much great resources. It's really appreciated. I love what you're doing out there in the world. We live on opposite ends of the planet, but I feel close to you because that's the power of technology, right? Is we can have this conversation from different points on the globe. And I can't wait for us to be in the same city or town so that we can sit down, have a cup of coffee, and continue this conversation. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and if you leave a review on iTunes, I promise I will read every single review. If you know someone who makes a full-time living from part-time work, and maybe this is you, please visit lifestylesolopreneur.com to nominate a guest or to nominate yourself. Because remember this, money doesn't buy happiness, but money in the hands of a happy person, there is no greater tool.
Today's episode was brought to you by the Get Shift Done program. It's a lifestyle-changing online class to help you define your business and lifestyle ambitions, and to set goals in a way you've never experienced before. This class will 10x your daily productivity with methods that will blow your mind. And if you use the coupon code podcast, the class tuition is 99% off. Visit GetShiftDone.com to enroll today.